people straight away jumped to thinking that this is the sort of thing that I was doing. Now, I don't mean to disappoint you on slide 2, but actually it wasn't quite as heroic or as glamorous as that. It actually looked a little bit more like this. The key difference being is that I was probably wearing some sort of camouflage uniform, so maybe I didn't stick out quite as much as this chap. I did that for about 5 years, and you know, in the end got a little bit tired of making my family proud every day, and decided to transition into software, working in a SaaS company, specifically within the CRM market. Again, like many of you may be on the call, when I tell people that I work in software, people think that this is what I do. This time you'd be a little bit closer to being right. I did do that, but I also lived up to other software stereotypes. I did quite a lot of this, quite a lot of eating pizza, quite a lot of eating KFC. Looking back at old Facebook pictures, it wasn't doing me too well, and it probably wasn't particularly healthy either. About 2 years ago then, I decided to move across the country, and I took a job in travel, a job that I currently have now within TUI. Again, when I tell people that I work in travel, often they think of this, sunning it up somewhere on the beach with a computer, having a really great time. And the truth is, this time it actually is pretty close to that. I'm really lucky to work in travel, and before the situation that we currently find ourselves in, the opportunity to see different parts of the world, drink beer in swimming pools, dress up on cruise ships. We do deliver some stuff as well, but it's a really great job that I have at the moment. So why is all this important? I've worked across 3 very different sectors, and the key thing here is that across those 3 sectors, we deliver in 3 very unique and different ways across different frameworks. As you can imagine, with the military, it's quite tightly scoped, it's quite regimented. The way that we were delivering communication infrastructure type projects was very waterfall. Moving then into software and SaaS and CRM, it's a product-based offering. So we're delivering in more of a product agile way, working off of a backlog, iterating as we go. And then with TUI, I have the opportunity to work on projects that sometimes look a bit different. Some ways we work in agile, some ways we work in waterfall. So across my 8 years of experience, I've had to chop and change between the 2, back and forth, and had a different view of how we can deliver. I also entered the world of sort of software delivery at a time where both of these methodologies are quite prevalent. So I've sort of come in at a time where I had to be good at both. So I feel like I've got a bit of a different perspective to others that I maybe work alongside or other people in the industry. So how do we get to the topic of today's webinar? As Will sort of alluded to earlier on, it all started back in November, attending the What Does a Modern Day Project Manager Look Like workshop. Now, before I move on, once all of the situation that we currently find ourselves in has died down, get yourself along to one of these workshops. Honestly, it's a really great day. Learn some good stuff. There's so much value in networking and meeting people. I'd absolutely recommend it. There was sort of 2 key themes that came out of that day, really, 2 things that I picked up on. The first one is the statement at the bottom. A lot of people saying that their organisations had gone through some sort of agile transformation, and their ways of working were different. They had different frameworks in there, but as individuals, they still felt a little bit lost. They still, had questions about how they apply themselves within the framework. And if we sort of had to aggregate all of those different terms together, the sort of overall question was, well, how do I become a successful agile project manager? So I had a little bit of a chat with Will, and we sort of spoke through it, and we agreed that there seems to be that bit of a gap. So I went away and took that question, well, how do I be a successful agile project manager? I took it back one step and thought, well, how do I be a successful project manager? The first thing I thought about was, well, as individuals, we're judged on one thing in projects, and that's delivering on time, to scope, and within a budget. Again, I thought about it a little bit more detail. That isn't unique to Agile. That's common across Waterfall and Agile methodologies. Maybe the sort of weighting that we give to the scope or the budget or the time is slightly different, but it's the same. So it's not unique to Agile. Also, I don't really control and influence those as a project manager myself. my organisation put governance in place, and I follow that governance to ensure that these measures are met. It's not something which I do that separates me from the guy or girl that's sat next to me, the other project managers within an organisation. So I thought, well, what is in my control? What's in my influence as a project manager? There's a number of things, but the one I wanted to focus on today was the team. It's around the team, how I lead a team to work together. I thought a little bit more about team, and thought about well, what makes a team, and we have competent individuals. As a project manager, I need, developers that can develop and testers that can test and BAs that can elicit requirements. But what makes a really successful team is my capacity as a project manager and as a leader, a team leader in this guise, to bring those skill sets together, balancing off strengths and weaknesses, and sort of maximise everybody's effectiveness. That's what's going to bring me the most success. So what I want to talk about today was taking your skills as a project manager, as a leader, and looking at how we can reapply them into more of an agile mindset. So aligning ourselves against that mindset, against that framework, against that philosophy, and hopefully increasing our success within that agile environment. So as Will alluded to at the start of the call, we're now going to break off into a group discussion. I'll let Will talk through the details of that and how that's going to look. Once that discussion's been completed, I'm going to come back and what I've just introduced, I'm going to go through a couple of key skills, some analysis of how we can take skills that we're used to, maybe more of a waterfall style, how we can adapt them for agile, and how we can maybe tweak them a little bit further for remote working in the situations that we find ourselves in at the moment. So Will, back over to you. Yeah, welcome back. Thanks, Will, for taking us through that. I'm going to now go through my analysis of 3 skills. And as Will sort of said, I wonder if James is going to disagree with you with a bit of a smile. So Will obviously knows what I'm going to go through, and we'll be pleased to know that there's quite a lot of crossover. So I'm not going to prove anybody wrong. I think I agree with most of you. We go into a little bit more detail. We're going to have a look at leadership. We're going to have a look at communication, and we're going to have a look at planning. And planning is a slightly different one. The other 2 definitely came up. Before I do that, a couple of just quick points I want to cover. Firstly, a quick disclaimer. As I go through and do this comparison, I'm not here to try and discredit the waterfall methodology in any way. I'm going to heighten some aspects of some key characteristics of waterfall and agile, just for a bit of a comparison. But yeah, in no way trying to discredit that methodology. Still very current, still very useful. So before I jump into those skills, why do you need to change the way that you apply soft skills? Put simply, the role and responsibility of a project manager changes between waterfall and agile. So the way that you apply yourself has to be different. If we first start off looking at waterfall, as a project manager, we're responsible for a number of different things, but mainly we're responsible for setting where the objective is and then determining and planning how the objective is met. We're given a scope, we point the team towards that objective, and we define the granular steps of how we're going to get there and work through in a controlled manner. Now, in Agile, this is slightly different. The project manager is only responsible for setting where, and it's the team that are the people and the individuals that define how. So as a project manager, I'm still setting where we're going. I'm still pointing the team in that direction and specifying where we need to get to. But my job instead becomes about facilitation, which I think we raised in the session, empowerment, and empowering the team to take the steps themselves. Because both methodologies, the why we need to achieve that objective, is still going to be defined by your business sponsor and your business teams. That why might be more customer focused, and we might be creating a new product to meet customer needs, or we might be creating ways for our customers to get in touch with us better. It might be a business need for efficiency or some sort of transformation that we need to go through. Significantly, in Agile, the project manager is only there to set the where, and then there to facilitate the team to define the how. A slightly sort of exaggerated and sort of funny example, again, if we take waterfall on the left, the project manager's got all of the control, all of the influence. They know both where we're going and they're controlling exactly how we're getting there. the team don't really have any particular control themselves, and sometimes they can feel a little bit helpless. In Agile, again, it's all about empowerment. As the project manager, I've still got the map, I still know where we're going, but now my task is to empower the team to do the how. The project team in this example are going to be the ones turning the wheel, pumping the brakes, and as the project manager, I don't need to do that. I'm happy that my team can do it, as long as I know that we're still heading in the right direction. So I'm going to go through the skills in turn now and take a little look at them. So we'll start off with leadership, and we'll just do a comparison of some of the typical sort of ways that we see leadership applied in Waterfall and then within Agile. So we associate Waterfall with a sort of top-down leadership. Again, we're there trying to make sure that things go against the plan, that the team are following what we need to do. Again, we've defined the how, so making sure that the team are following that in quite a controlled way. Why do we have to do that? Well, we have quite a detailed plan, so we have to keep tight control of the team to align with our tightly controlled plan. And how is this enforced? So it's quite sort of a little bit command and control. Again, this is a little bit heightened, but there is that sort of command and control element, and we have less frequent, so sort of semi-regular, but quite formal meetings. Those sort of meetings where we're ticking off the actions that have been completed, and we're assigning new actions out. Again, all coming from the project manager. In Agile, then, the leadership style is slightly different. You go from being a sort of top-down style of leader to becoming more of a servant leader and more democratic. Again, I think this speaks back to some of the points that were raised in the discussion around sort of facilitation, empowerment, collaboration. We're trying to create a different type of environment. I'm leading from the middle of the team rather than from the front or the back. Again, why do we use that style then? So again, it's about that collaboration. It's about that consensus approach in line with those sort of high-level plans. And then how is it enforced? So it's enforced through empowerment, a culture of empowerment. We spoke about culture as well in the previous session, making sure that the team are there to be empowered and make the decisions that they need to make. It also comes into more sort of frequent informal meetings, again, getting people together, building collaboration, building that empowered environment. So why is this so important? This style of leadership directly relates to Agile principle number 3, which is around cooperation and collaboration. Your team should work collaboratively and feel empowered to make those decisions. You need to bring together subject matter experts, the right business stakeholders, the right business representatives, and you're there to create this sort of one team culture. We're also going to take a little look at an example. How could this look practically? So a situation then. So the business sponsor comes to you as the project manager. They send you an email saying that they want to revise an element of the scope. So what do you do in that sort of Agile style of leadership? Well, what we want to do is bring everybody together for this. We don't want to be making any decisions in silo. It's about collaboration. So I might put together a short informal meeting with some of the business stakeholders and our development team. So as a team, we're talking through that proposition, again, empowering the team to define how that change may look. And again, the reason for it, sort of covered it slightly there, but it's about creating that whole team collaborative environment, being a servant leader. So we're working remotely at the moment, and again, we sort of covered this in our breakout sessions as well. When we're working remotely, there's no excuse not to be getting people together. We all have the tools, such as the tool that we're using now. We have the ability to get people together on calls, and then collaboration tools such as OneNote or Whiteboard. There's hundreds out there. Get a screen on, sort of like we'll do with the whiteboard. Again, get everybody's thoughts, get everybody discussing. When we're remote, we're lucky that we have the tools to be able to still do that. Okay, moving on to communication then. So same sort of format, we'll have a look at typical ways of communicating within Waterfall. So that communication style, matching that top-down style of leadership, can often be quite one way. Again, we've got a plan. I need to make sure that the plan is adhered to. So I'm going to be doing a lot more directing, a lot more sort of actioning people to be creating and doing the things that they need to be doing. Why do we use that? It's about keeping a clear and controlled message. Controlled message probably being the sort of key part of that. We need a detailed level of communication. We've got a detailed plan. And how does this look in practice? It could be more formal methods of communication, emails, briefings, and again, those meetings where, as project managers, we may need to be a little bit more sort of on broadcast mode. We're the ones sort of, is this done? What's next? Off you go. Again, it's very one way. In Agile, to align with that more sort of democratic, consensus-driven model, we want to try and make that communication as much as we can two-way and a little bit more rich. Again, we spoke about it, it got raised, I think, pretty much by every single group that communications or collaborative communication is absolutely key to Agile, and it absolutely is. Why do we do it? It builds openness within our teams, it builds trust, and it allows us to have that feedback and build that collaborative one team environment even further. How is this enforced? Again, we can use things like IM chats, again, informal methods of communication, getting face-to-face when we can, and having short calls. This doesn't mean having more meetings. This just means getting people together, quick 5 minutes. If we're virtual, get on a call. If we're in the office, get face-to-face, chat something through, make a quick decision, and get on with it and move forward. Again, this directly aligns with an Agile principle. This time it's Agile principle number 7, communicating continuously. As many of us know, and there's many studies around failures of projects. One of the key ways, or one of the key reasons that projects fail is because of poor communication. So try not to fall into that trap. Encourage team interaction through some of the sort of ceremonies that we're used to, like daily stand-ups and workshops. Get everybody together as much as possible. Making sure that we're getting all the stakeholders where we need to, help manage everybody's expectations, make sure that we know that everybody's on the same page. And again, an example then. So we've got a situation, a key change has occurred within our business. It's going to have an indirect effect on our projects. As the project manager, I now need to communicate that to my team. When we try and be more agile and we go in that agile sort of way of being, how do we do that? We're going to bring the team together. Not going to write out a long email, at least not to begin with. We're going to prioritize sort of face-to-face collaborative communication first. So bring them together. Again, if it's face-to-face, great. If it's virtual as we are now, get on something like this, get on whichever tool that you use, and make it open. Be honest, talk about what's going on, encourage feedback, get people to ask questions. Again, if there's something sensitive in there, you can have those conversations afterwards, one-to-one. And if you want to follow up with a formal type of communication afterwards, just for governance and to make sure that we do those necessities and we document correctly, you can do that. Make sure we become informal and collaborative first. Again, why do we do this? Effective communication always happens best face-to-face. It helps show transparency as a team. Again, as a leader, I'm embodying that one team culture. I'm not hiding anything. Everything's out in the open. It just helps to create that one team empowered. How does this look when we're remote working? Again, we've spoken about it before, but get on those calls. You know, there's no excuse. We live in a time where we have these tools available. Get the video on. If everybody in your team feels comfortable, get the video on. See people face to face. As a leader, it helps you understand people's body language. It helps you to communicate through your own body language. Try and get on calls face to face if you can't. And then the final sort of soft skill that I want to go through today is planning. It didn't come up in any of our group sessions. I think one of the groups, I think led by Sarah, spoke about organisation, so maybe it sort of feeds in. We'll have a little bit of a look at how we plan across the two methodologies. So within Waterfall, as we know, it's quite detailed planning, and that planning happens up front. Because we're going to deliver in one big hit at the end, typically we have quite a hard and refined scope up front. Again, we use that so that we can ensure that we know what we're going to deliver, because we're going to have to deliver this all in one go. And it provides stakeholders with those sort of assurances that they kind of know what they're getting. How does it look? Well, it looks like the detailed plans that we're all sort of used to, the sort of other sort of artifacts that we may create, work breakdown structures, product breakdown structures, again, a deeper level of detail to make sure that the scope's fully defined. And then moving forward, we often have quite strict scope management governance, making sure that any changes to that are really tightly controlled and go through proper approval. As we all know within Agile, this is obviously very different. Agile favours a sort of high level upfront of planning, and we iterate the detail as we go through. Why do we use that? Well, it gives us flexibility. It allows us to change and adapt our needs as we go through. It promotes speed. We can get through those early phases of the project faster and just get on with doing and creating something. But again, it fosters that collaboration. As we go through, we're collaborating consistently as a team, making sure that what we're doing and what we're defining is correct and is as most relevant for the present time as it can be. How does this look day to day? It looks like roadmaps instead of detailed plans. We use epic stories rather than detailed requirements lists right at the start. And as we go through, it looks like prioritization and reprioritization. Again, that's something that I think somebody raised in the sessions. But as we go through, our planning is flexible. It changes based upon the business or the customer need as we progress forward. This aligns up against Agile principle number 5 about building incrementally. Again, we're referring to DSDM here, but again, a lot of the Agile principles, they're all advocating sort of before we commit getting into significant development, we've got to understand the scope, but we've got to keep a level of flexibility. We want to try and deliver value as early as possible, but we want to make sure that we have the flexibility and the allowance in our team to reprioritize and change if we need to. Last practical example then. The business sponsor requests from you as a project manager quite a detailed upfront plan. They want to know exactly when certain bits of development are going to be. As a project manager, you're almost a bit of an educator, I suppose, in this situation. You then need to go and explain the principle of incremental delivery and the benefits that that's going to have for the business and for the customer. Often you might have to find a sort of common understanding. We might have to find a plan that has so much detail to sort of appease certain people's requirement, but making sure that we keep it flexible enough so that we're not moving away from the way that we need to work in Agile. Again, the reason aligns to incremental delivery and encourages ongoing collaboration as we move forwards and helps us to best serve any evolving requirements as we move forward. When working remotely, again, what tools can we use? We look at something like Trello, a way to get the requirements that we've got up on screen, show what we're doing in the next couple of weeks. Again, Jira, lots of tools that can do this. Planning and making sure that people have enough detail. When we're working remotely, it's about access to information. Use these tools that not only give access to information, but they make it visible for people at all different levels of knowledge within IT and development. If we need to bring additional stakeholders into potentially more meetings, again, making sure that people don't feel isolated, comes back to that communication, that leadership of working collaboratively. So what's the benefit here? Why do we actually do this? So we spoke at the start about success and sort of how do we be more successful. And we've looked really at creating an environment that is collaborative and fosters as much collaboration as we can. It's proven that people that work in a collaborative environment just feel better. They like coming to work. They feel more productive. They feel more efficient. But some specific outcomes that we'd get from the team. A boost in creativity. We've got developers, we've got designers that sit in our teams. If they feel empowered, they feel like they're part of something that's bigger than they are, they're going to be more creative. You're going to get better output for your customers and for your business. Motivation. People are going to want to come to work. They're going to want to work harder. They're going to want to be part of creating success. Trust. As a team, we're trusting each other more. We've got that open, honest culture where we know that as a team, we're working together. There's no secrets, there's no operations in silos. Everything's open. As a team, we're really strong. And we've got that sort of core ethos of empowerment. As trust builds, sometimes work becomes more than a job. People become more than colleagues. It sounds a little bit cheesy, but if you're working in a team where you're collaborating, it starts to become a real passion, and the people that you're working with start to become friends, you start to care for them, and it helps you as a team just be more productive. And then lastly, develop. As individuals, we all strive to develop and mature and grow. If we're working in an environment that is quicker, slicker, more empowered, we're doing more and have more opportunities to have new experiences, to work on different projects, to work on different things, to achieve, to be recognised. Your team are going to grow. As individuals, you're going to become better. You're going to grow faster by having better culture and a better chance of succeeding. All of this comes together for the sort of underlying value of Agile, if you like, and sort of why Agile as a framework sort of came into existence. Businesses wanted to get value faster. As project managers, if we can deliver value earlier and faster, we will be more successful. That's the definition of success for Agile. And back to our sort of slightly funny and kind of heightened rally car analogy. Getting your team's skills right so that they're aligned to an Agile framework, an Agile mindset, Agile principles, is the difference between failure and success. Now, this is also true across the methodologies. I said earlier on, I'm not trying to knock Waterfall in any way. We've looked at how we apply those for Waterfall. Applying the soft skills in the right way is the difference between failure and success. It isn't a difference between moving from Waterfall and Agile. Failure can, look like your project crashing and burning. Success is you coming across the finish line and as a team achieving and delivering what you set out to achieve. So some final thoughts from me then, just before I wrap up. To succeed as a project manager in an Agile world, you need to reapply your team's soft skills to align with that Agile mindset. It's no good the business going through an Agile transformation if you as an individual aren't going to go through that as well. That comes down to the sort of one of the core principles we looked at earlier, which is what is my role as a project manager now. My job is to set the where that we're going. That doesn't change. I still know the objective and what we need to deliver. My job now becomes less about sort of control and making sure that we're moving through those steps, and it becomes about facilitation and empowerment. I want to create an environment where the team are empowered to do the how, define the how, and action the how themselves. And then lastly, a point for the future. It doesn't take an expert to sort of read through new frameworks that are coming out, Agile, and we look forward into DevOps. A lot of the time, the project manager role isn't in there, and that can seem pretty weird for all of us that sort of label ourselves as project managers. Businesses are always going to need people that can lead, that can communicate, that can plan, that can facilitate. All of those skills are capabilities that if you're working as a project manager, you already have. In the future, we may not be project managers anymore. We may not all be project managers. We may be scrum masters or delivery managers instead. So this ethos of being able to adapt the capabilities and the soft skills that we have is going to set us in really good stead for the future in whatever role and whatever title that we have. I suppose one last sort of quote that I wanted to leave people with, I sort of tried to think of one sort of sentence or one thing that I could say that would help people get into a bit more of an Agile mindset. And I've sort of ripped off a quote from John F. Kennedy here, so apologies to him. When you sit down at your desk tomorrow, or for now your dining room table, rather than thinking about what does my team do for me, have a think about what can I do for my team, how can I be a better servant leader and empower my team against those Agile mindset, those Agile principles, that Agile philosophy, and hopefully as project managers, you'll have the most chance of succeeding within an Agile environment. And that's everything from me. So thanks everyone. And if there's time for questions, I suppose Will's going to let us know.